In the last episode, fire fell on Nadab and Abihu when they offered unauthorized fire before the Lord. Aaron stood in silence as his sons were carried from the sanctuary. God gave Moses the laws of clean and unclean, and revealed the Day of Atonement, the annual reset when the high priest entered the most holy place to cleanse the sanctuary and send the scapegoat into the wilderness. Now the Lord speaks again, and his words reach into every corner of Israelite life. Be holy, because I, the Lord your God, am holy. This command echoes through the remaining chapters of Leviticus. It is not a suggestion. It is not an aspiration. It is the defining call of Israel's existence. They are to be different, set apart, distinct from every other nation on earth. And that difference will touch everything. The blood is sacred. No Israelite may eat blood, whether from a domesticated animal or from a wild one taken in the hunt. The life of the creature is in the blood, and the blood is given on the altar to make atonement. Blood belongs to God. It is not to be consumed. If someone eats blood, that person will be cut off from the people. This is not a minor regulation. It is a boundary of identity. Sexual conduct is defined. The Lord lays out a long list of forbidden unions. No one may approach a close relative to have sexual relations. Not a parent, not a sibling, not an aunt or uncle, not a daughter-in-law or sister-in-law, not two sisters at the same time. These practices are described as the ways of Egypt and Canaan, the nations Israel has left behind, and the nations Israel will drive out. Israel must not imitate them. The land itself has become defiled by such actions, and God is punishing those nations. If Israel does the same, the land will vomit them out as it vomited out the nations before them. Holiness is not abstract. It is expressed in the body, in the family, in the structure of intimacy. The laws continue. Do not steal. Do not lie. Do not deceive one another. Do not swear falsely by God's name. Do not defraud your neighbor. Do not hold back the wages of a hired worker overnight. Do not curse the deaf. Do not put a stumbling block before the blind. Do not pervert justice. Do not show partiality to the poor or favoritism to the great. Judge your neighbor fairly. Do not spread slander. Do not endanger your neighbor's life. Do not hate your brother in your heart. Rebuke your neighbor frankly so you will not share in their guilt. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge. And then the words that summarize the whole. Love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. This is not a law buried among obscure rituals. It stands at the heart of the Holiness Code, surrounded by specific commands that give it concrete meaning. Love is not a feeling. It is a set of actions. Fair wages, truthful speech, just judgment, protection of the vulnerable. The holiness of God is reflected in how His people treat one another. The laws reach further. When you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap to the very edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Do not strip your vineyard bare, or gather fallen grapes. Leave them for the poor and the foreigner. Provision for the vulnerable is built into the very act of farming. Israel's abundance is never fully their own. There is always a portion that belongs to the one who has nothing. Respect the elderly. Stand up in the presence of the aged. Show reverence for your God. When a foreigner resides among you, do not mistreat them. Treat them as your native-born. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt. Israel's memory of slavery is to shape their treatment of outsiders. What they received unjustly, they must not repeat. What they longed for in bondage, they must now extend freely. There are laws for merchants. Use honest scales, honest weights, honest measures. The Lord brought Israel out of Egypt, and He expects integrity in their commerce. There are penalties for violations, severe ones. For child sacrifice, the offender is to be put to death. For cursing one's parents, the same. For adultery, for incest, for various forms of sexual misconduct, death. For consulting mediums or spiritists, exclusion from the community. These penalties are not arbitrary. They are meant to purge the evil from among the people. Israel cannot be holy and harbor practices that defile. The priests are held to even higher standards. They must not make themselves unclean for the dead, except for close relatives. They must not shave their heads or cut their bodies. They must not marry a woman defiled by prostitution. The high priest cannot even attend to the dead body of his own father. His dedication to the sanctuary is absolute. Any priest with a physical defect may eat from the offerings, but he may not approach the altar. The sanctuary requires wholeness, perfection, unblemished service. This is not a judgment of personal worth. It is a symbol of the holiness that must surround God's presence. The offerings themselves must be without defect. No blind, lame, or diseased animal may be brought. What is given to God must be the best. Less than the best dishonors Him. From the sanctuary, the law now turns to time itself. The Lord establishes the rhythm of the year through sacred festivals. The Sabbath comes every 7 days. No work is to be done. It is a day of rest, a holy convocation. Passover falls on the 14th day of the first month, followed immediately by the Feast of Unleavened Bread. For 7 days, Israel eats bread without yeast, remembering their hasty departure from Egypt. First fruits is the offering of the first grain of the harvest, waved before the Lord. 50 days later comes the Feast of Weeks, a celebration of the wheat harvest with offerings and rest. In the 7th month, on the first day, is the Feast of Trumpets, a day of rest marked by trumpet blasts. On the 10th day is the Day of Atonement, the most solemn day of the year. Israel denies themselves, does no work, and watches as the high priest enters the most holy place. On the 15th day begins the Feast of Tabernacles, a week of dwelling in temporary shelters, remembering the wilderness journey. It ends with a final sacred assembly. These festivals are not optional. They shape the calendar around worship, around memory, around gratitude. Israel's time belongs to God as much as their land and their bodies. The land itself receives a Sabbath. Every 7th year, the fields are to lie fallow. No sowing, no pruning, no formal harvest. Whatever grows on its own may be eaten, but the land rests. And every 50th year is the year of Jubilee. On the Day of Atonement, a trumpet is sounded throughout the land. Liberty is proclaimed. Slaves are freed. Land that has been sold returns to its original family. Debts are released. The land is the Lord's. Israel is only a tenant. They must not sell it permanently, because it does not ultimately belong to them. And because God owns the land, He can command that it be redistributed, that wealth not accumulate forever in a few hands, that every generation begin again with a measure of equity. If a brother becomes poor and sells himself as a servant, he is to be treated as a hired worker, not as a slave. And at Jubilee, he and his children go free. The year of Jubilee is a reset, a limit on inequality, a safeguard against permanent poverty. The book of Leviticus ends with a warning. If you follow my decrees and are careful to obey my commands, I will send rain in its season. The ground will yield crops. The trees will bear fruit. You will eat your fill and live in safety. I will walk among you and be your God. But if you do not obey, if you reject my decrees and violate my covenant, then I will bring terror upon you, disease, defeat, famine, wild beasts, plague, siege, exile. The punishments escalate in stages. If the first correction is ignored, worse will follow. And if still they do not repent, the land will be scattered, and Israel will be dispersed among the nations. The land will enjoy the Sabbaths it was denied while they are gone. And even then, if they confess their sins and humble their uncircumcised hearts, God will remember His covenant. He will not utterly destroy them. He will not break His word. This is not a threat. It is a roadmap, a prediction of what will come if Israel turns away, and a promise that God's faithfulness outlasts their failure. Leviticus closes with regulations about vows and tithes. What is dedicated to the Lord may not be taken back. The firstborn belong to Him. The tithe belongs to Him. Everything Israel has comes from God, and everything must be offered back in acknowledgement of that truth. The book of Leviticus is not a burden. It is a blueprint, a design